Well, great evening to each and every one of you. Lakeisha McKnight is here, and welcome back to the Revitalize the Total Woman podcast, where the mission of this podcast and the nonprofit that really houses the podcast is to empower women like yourself with the tools to be able to create, relate, and elevate. Yes, this podcast is a media outlet for the nonprofit based in Chesapeake, Virginia, entitled Women of Elevation Career Services International. Its legal name is Kingdom Expansion Enterprises Incorporated. And so, again, thank you so much for tuning in. You definitely can learn more about this podcast by visiting the website, which is www.womenofelevation.com. And there should be a drop-down menu or a tab for the podcast where you can learn much, much more. So during, of course, the month of May and going into the month of June, we're still focusing in on personal relationship building. And we engage and we talk about various topics that are really engaging. And some of these topics I also post on my wall on Facebook. And feel free to connect with me on Facebook as well. You can find me under facebook.com/L McKnight Speaks, which would spell as LMCKNIGHTSPEAKS. So L McKnight Speaks. Okay, so you simply look for that, or you can just look up my name, Lakeisha McKnight, and then, of course, you'll find an image of me up there. Hopefully it resembles the image on this podcast episode. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. We have some great stuff in store. It's coming up really soon. I know in July we have a telesummit, and then in August we have a live seminar for relationship building. So tonight we're continuing with something similar to a discussion that we had on last night. Now remember, this podcast, it goes live every Tuesday and Wednesday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that means, of course, our next episode after this is going to be next week on Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard. So, of course, you can subscribe to the podcast. That way you know when we're about to go live. Right now, what I am going to do is definitely share inside of our Women of Elevation group on Facebook and let the listeners, let the members inside of the group know that I am live, and, of course, encourage them to listen in. So I'm just going to say I am live. Feel free to listen in and engage. There we go. Okay, so, it's just one way of connecting with the members in our group. Now, there are quite a bit of members in the group. It's about over 700 people in the group. Of course, one of the things that we're tasked with is definitely trying to keep everyone engaged because we could just be very, very busy. And have busy lifestyles, and I totally understand it, but just being able to come back together and re-engage is really, really critical. So that's going to really be my task over the next week or so, is just purposely, even if it's an hour or two a week, engaging with the members in that group, in addition, of course, to those of you here on the podcast. So feel free, even while I'm live, to engage. You can ask questions, you can leave a comment. There's a chat feature that will allow you to do that, to leave a comment or a question. And once I see that someone did do that, or they just came in to say hello, I'll definitely acknowledge you. But our topic, as you can see from the podcast title there, is, how can you make the relationship work with someone who is much younger than yourself? How can that possibly be? Because I know there are so many people out there, a lot of men who have younger women in their life that they really, really love. Or how about the woman who's dating someone who is about 20 years or a little less than that, older than them? Younger than them, right? How can that potentially work? I know one of the biggest tips that I can give is to let love be your guide. Let love be your guide. Love should conquer any conflict, any issue in any relationship. If you love the person and that person makes you happy, you really want the best for them, you really care about them genuinely, and in no way trying to dominate them, then it can work. Love just overrides so many different things. So let love be the guide. And I would just say, number 2, make sure that your values are the same, meaning that, the principles by which you lead your life, it has to be pretty much the same, because I truly believe that you cannot be unequally yoked. What that means is your values and your beliefs cannot be different. Okay. You may be at different points in your life where one person could be well into their career and the other person is really just getting started or recently got into it. Okay. 5 years into their career, which is fine. But at the same time, you have to respect each other's stage and honor that and not throw it over their head whenever a conflict arises. So you have to show equal level of respect in the relationship. You have to communicate. Okay. And just truly love. When it all boils down to it, even when conflicts develop in the relationship, allow love to conquer those issues that may arise. And trust me, issues will arise. If they have not developed in a relationship yet, it will come. It's just like a storm or clouds or rain. Although you see a lot of sunny days, there are going to be days where the clouds are going to come out, when the rain is going to come down, when there's going to be a storm. And there may be several days of stormy weather. And that's the same thing that applies in a relationship. There may be several days where the relationship is really stormy and where it's really rocky. And you really just have to let love be your guide and just trust the process, even with the relationship. Trust the process. Hard days are not always going to remain. There are going to be some easier days. And you just have to forgive each other. I think that's one of the common principles too in a relationship, period. Whether, it's close in age or much of a big gap in age. You really, really need to forgive yourself and forgive one another. Because it's going to be hard for you to move on when there's a conflict if you continue to rub things in one another's face, and kind of not forgiving each other for those things they've done. Because we have to remember, we're not perfect. Okay. And I know I probably can talk about this for a while, but these are just some brief tips that I wanted to share with you that's going to help you to make that relationship work if there is a big gap in age. So hopefully you take these things to heart. You kind of let it marinate just a little bit, and, see how it works for you and just come back and give me some feedback. I would love to know how these tips that we share with you really helps you to propel forward in your relationships. This is the Relationship Mastery series that we're on. And we're going to be on this pretty much from now until the end of August. So let's focus in and zero in on these relationships and make them better. If you know another sister, and you know that they want to have a love life, they're looking to really get out there and date. We're really zoning in on dating. We're zoning in on marriage. We're going to focus on marriage enhancement, probably. We're going to talk a little bit more about dating and singlehood probably for the rest of this week. Okay. So Thursday and Friday is the rest of this week. It's going to talk about singlehood. Then we're going to really talk about courting, and then we're going to transition into marriage and how to make the marriage work. Okay. Because that's going to be really, really interesting. So we're talking about dating now, and we're going to talk about dating for the rest of the week. But, what we're going to get into and transition into is courting, because dating is different from courting. And we're going to talk about that difference on next week. So again, thank you so very much for tuning in tonight. And we're going to be back here on next Tuesday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, this podcast is here to help women like yourself and empower you with the tools to be able to create, relate, and elevate. Be blessed and take care.